What's already? Welcome back to News Toast, and there's been a volatile conversation this past month about games and how we gamers actually consume them. You know, this really took off with the Switch 2 reveal and its new quote-unquote physical format dubbed keycards. That's been a highly controversial conversation, to say the least. I mean, people have absolutely been freaking out about it. However, as I said right away, this is not a new thing for the game industry. It's just now more people are actually noticing it. And we got more information about that today. Not only from Nintendo and why so many third-party companies are opting out for game key cards, but also from Xbox and then potentially tipping their hat for their next generation platform. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do. You all are absolutely awesome. Let's go and get right into things, though, starting off with Stellar Blade. In my opinion, this is actually one of the better games of 2024. It's stylish, it's bombastic, it's got a thrilling story, and it's just a really fun action game. If you haven't already played it, it gets an easy recommendation from me, and that will soon extend to PC gamers as well. Someone over at PlayStation mistakenly dropped its new PC trailer on YouTube today. Sony is still the publisher in this case, though apparently they must have revealed it a little bit early because they quickly took it down. As you may know, though, the internet doesn't simply forget. Its trailer was quickly archived on various websites, including Reddit, where you can actually still witness it yourself as we speak. The trailer reveals the PC Complete Edition will be available on June 11th with 25 new costumes, a new boss battle, and new features such as DLSS and FSR support. Now, I do imagine a lot of those extras will also come over to PlayStation. We're just going to have to wait for that announcement. But, I mean, really. Yeah, this game was already stunning on the PlayStation 5 and especially on the PlayStation 5 Pro. I actually think this is one of the better showcases for the PS5 Pro, so I'm very excited to see just how good it'll look on a high-end PC. Now, for you fighting game fans out there, we got a very welcome reveal for consoles. After its PC release back in January, Sega and RGG just announced that Virtua Fighter REVO will soon come over to the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and yes, also to the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, this is probably going to become a lot more common here in the next few years. I do think the Switch 2 will ultimately prove itself as a more than capable machine with a lot of third-party multi-platform support. Nonetheless, though, the other really cool thing about this announcement is the introduction of crossplay between all platforms. And it'll also have rollback netcode. Now, both of those are huge for fighting games, and I mean, for me personally, I honestly just think it's crazy for a fighting game in today's age to not have crossplay by this point. I mean, fighting games, more so than I'd say other genres, really relies on their online community to kind of keep them going for a long period of time. And when you can bring all the platforms together, that's really one of the best ways to extend its life as much as possible. So it's good that Sega and RGG kind of realizes that, and hopefully for you Virtua Fighter fans out there, this will breathe a lot of life into REVO for the foreseeable future. Unfortunately, though, we don't have an exact release date just yet, but as always, I will keep you all posted once we hear more. In the meantime, it is currently available on Steam, where it has a mostly positive rating. Now, speaking of cross-platform, Xbox and Playground Games just revealed a new Lamborghini car design for Forza Horizon 5 to celebrate the coming together of Xbox and PlayStation. You can see its blue and green design here, which, I mean, I think it looks pretty cool, but for such a small reveal, I mean, this doesn't seem like a big thing, but no, this has actually sparked a lot of conversation online, and not necessarily a nice conversation. I think we're still in that phase where some fans are either very bitter towards Xbox's multi-platform strategy, or they're, maybe poking fun at them for it, or they're even surprised about it. It still feels like there's a lot of mixed emotions about their third-party plans. But this is where they are. They are porting some games per game basis, for whatever that means, and they are celebrating it very publicly. Well, now that might rub some people the wrong way, but Microsoft wants to be everywhere, all while keeping their console user base intact. And I think that's still the number one mystery for them. I mean, I think this generation is pretty much set in stone for them. But how this strategy will impact their next platform, I think that's the much bigger question going forward. I do like the idea of their next console being a PC console hybrid. We've talked a lot about that in the past, and I like that they're working on a handheld. But how the market will actually react to those devices, all while having this multi-platform plan, is something that we haven't really seen from a console manufacturer before. At the same time, PC has never really had to sell itself by making exclusive games, so who knows? We'll just have to kind of see what happens and how Xbox can position themselves next generation. But let me know what you all think about this situation in the comments below. Okay, so since we're on the topic of situations, boy, do we have a physical conundrum right now. So there's already been a mountain of backlash for Nintendo's new game key cards. I mean, this has been well documented by this point, and you all don't really need me to rehash the ongoing conversation. We hear about it every single day. Now, I will say that this situation has been bizarre just because this is coming from Nintendo out of all companies. Out of the big three, they easily have the most physical support, especially over in Japan, where physical games remain the #1 go-to for Switch 1 consumers. So the idea that they're mostly moving over to a digital format does come as a bit of a surprise. But with a lot of things in life, there's often more than meets the eye. There's that missing flavor of context. And I'm a big context person. When I deliver you all the news, I like to add as much context as I can, especially when it comes to these more controversial stories, because I don't really just like throwing online temper tantrums. That's just not who I am. I'd like to make sense of each individual situation. And then I can kind of come to a more informed opinion. So in this case, we actually learned why game key cards are currently common for the Switch 2. And basically, like a lot of things in the game industry, and as I kind of guessed before, it all comes down to money. And in this case, maybe also a poor decision from Nintendo. So this all came out through an Arc System hack. Some Guilty Gear stuff has been leaking out online the last few days. If you're interested in that, you can definitely go find that online. But one of the most interesting things that's come from this leak is the Switch 2 cartridge sizes. You can see here posted up by Necrofelipe. He said, thanks to leaks from Arc System Works, only 3 types of formats have been found to be available for games being planned for the Switch 2. DL, digital game only, 64GB cartridge with full game, Potion, codename for key card format. Now, the reason that this is important is because allegedly the 64GB option is a lot more expensive than what we saw with the Switch 1 cartridges, and also more expensive than the key card, hence the reason why third-party companies are opting for said option. And this is actually a legitimate problem, because right now, these are the only options that developers have at their disposal. So I'm going to go ahead and use Bravely Default HD as an example. That's a small game of probably around 10 gigabytes. Square Enix really doesn't need a 64GB option. Now, if they would have chosen the 64GB option, well, because allegedly these cartridges are quite expensive, well, then Square Enix would have probably had to have raised the price from its $40 asking price. So in their mind, they chose the cheaper route for not only them, but also for customers. Now, do us customers actually agree with that? No, I don't think that we do. We've seen the backlash already online, but this does kind of display the issue that third-party companies are currently running into when it comes to their Switch 2 physical support. So the fix really needs to come from Nintendo. They need to find a way to offer smaller size cartridges for a cheaper price. And to be completely fair here, that could eventually happen later down the road, especially if consumers push back on this agenda enough like we've seen so far. But I'll also kind of say this, a lot of times you see gamers talk a lot of talk, but they don't actually show a lot of action. So, you know, we're going to see a lot of complaints about the Switch 2 and its price, but then there's also going to be a lot of people that actually buys the Switch 2. So there's some conflicting decisions there, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. We'll see how many people actually buys these game key cards. Now, like I've said countless times, though, Switch 2 game key cards are not a new thing. As soon as they announced them, my immediate first thought wasn't about anger or anything like that. No, my first thought was actually, hey, Xbox does the same thing. Xbox is infamous for not putting their games on disc. And this has been going on all generation long. Maybe just not a lot of people realized it at the time. But games like Halo Infinite and Forza Horizon 5 are not on disc. Now that Nintendo has made this into a mainstream topic, though, suddenly people are taking a little bit more notice, and Xbox has continued their no on disc trend. And now more people are reporting it. Indiana Jones released on Xbox, and, well, it's not on disc. It then came over to the PS5, and again, even though the PlayStation 5 Blu-ray is larger than it is on the Xbox Series, it's still not on disc. To make matters worse, Doom of the Dark Ages, one of gaming's most historical franchises, sadly, as you probably have guessed, is not on disc for either Xbox or for the PlayStation 5, despite that it could have easily fit on disc. Truthfully, from a physical collector myself, I really think this is such a shame. But I'm also not even slightly surprised by it. This really has become Xbox's MO, and I think a lot of that comes from the fact that on Xbox, they have a higher digital attachment rate than any other console manufacturer. Xbox gamers are a lot more likely to play digital games, especially when you consider Game Pass. So if they're not going to include the data on the Xbox disc, I guess they feel like they might as well not include it on the PlayStation 5 as well. I mean, it's unfortunate. It truly is. But this is the direction that they're going in. For that matter, this really could just be them tipping their hat to next generation. We've been hearing a lot of rumors that their next platform will be a PC console hybrid. They're also going to have a handheld console. And I can guarantee you that handheld console is not going to play, discs. So what I'll kind of say is that a big part of PC gaming is digital. So I think there is a very good chance that next generation, Xbox will be all digital with no physical disc drive option. They're already more than halfway there by this point, so I think they're going to rip the Band-Aid off. I mean, maybe they'll have like an attachable disc drive for backwards compatibility or something. I mean, we'll see what they decide to do. But I think their future games for their next generation platform will definitely be all digital. But I want to hear your all's thoughts about this. I mean, digital is obviously more popular by this point, and it continues to become more popular. So there's a lot of differing opinions on this. Both sides are very passionate about their opinions, so let me hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please, though, just do one thing for me. Be nice to each other. That's all I ask. Anyways, though, that's going to be it with this episode, but until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.